The year is 2021. It is no longer safe to transmit information. Phones, computers, and satellites are all vulnerable. But there is a solution.
Your storage capacity? I can carry nearly 80 gigs of data in my head.
Input the data into the brain of a human courier, like Johnny Mnemonic.
Hit me.
How do you fit all that in your head anyway?
I had to dump a chunk of long-term memory.
You had to dump a chunk of what?
My childhood.
What are you doing?
Making a long-distance phone call. I got the goods, Ralphie. Now I just want to get them out of my head.
Now, in a future
We locked on him.
where those who control the information control the world,
I've been charged with recovering the head of the Mnemonic courier.
everyone wants what is stored in Johnny's head.
Double cheese anchovies?
Ali! You were waiting for me, Ralphie.
Time is running out.
I'm a dead man if I don't get this out of my head.
I can get it out.
How?
A cranial drill and a pair of forceps.
For the future's most wanted fugitive.
Hello and welcome to Big Dumb Movie, where we discuss a different Big Dumb movie every episode. I'm your host, Corey, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Alan. Hello. And Steve.
Aloha.
What do you guys think of my energy?
It's up there.
It's up there, right?
Energetic, yeah.
My first note says Big Dick Energy.
Comes naturally.
I listened to some past episodes and I was like, okay, I come in kind of bored sometimes. That's no fun.
Well,
I hope that
what
word
we
is
want.
underlined and highlighted and like circled. Just like all this shit, just big dick energy.
3 times, yeah. Compensating. Now, the movie we watched this time around was Johnny Mnemonic, a 1995 film directed by Robert Longo. Before we talk about Johnny Mnemonic at all, what do you guys think of this Occupy Area 51 meme that's going on? It's everywhere I see on the internet.
God, is that stupid?
It's infected the internet, and the numbers are just all over the place. I've seen everything from 200,000 to 400,000. I just recently saw it said 700,000, and I think they're just going on how many people are like joining this Facebook group. I don't know. It's insane.
Well, in case anyone from like the far distant future is listening to this older episode, like the future year of 2020, for example.
Send a letter back to the past. Let us know how many of these people got shot.
No shit.
Yeah.
No, but what we're talking about is this, like, I guess, movement or event that a lot of people on the internet claim to be willing to attend, which is where a bunch of civilians are apparently just going to round up together and storm Area 51. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's basically it. From everything I've seen, it was started as a joke, and I guess somebody, I don't know fucking who, somebody must have started it. Somebody made a Facebook event. Everybody started joining that. That spiraled into the meme that everyone just kept peddling. And I think the numbers just keep going up and everyone just keeps joking about it. It's just full speed ahead.
Now, some of the memes I've seen on it are actually pretty
They're really funny.
Yeah. Steve, what have you seen on this?
I'm only aware that this petition exists. I haven't really seen any of the memes.
I see. Well,
Yeah.
suffice to say they're really good.
Right.
I remember this actually happened about 2 years ago. There was another Occupy Area 51 event. It was like, like Occupy Wall Street or whatever. But it's Occupy Area 51. What do you guys think is going to happen?
First of all, I don't think most of those signatures are sincere.
No,
I think the
fuck
vast
no.
majority of those people have no intention.
No, it's not
for
even
it.
a signature. It's just
Or-
like there's an event on Facebook
just
and you
click
can,
like, yeah, going.
click a button that says going.
Yeah, okay, yeah, like for most of those. But I mean, look, maybe small chance a group of people show up and huddle around outside the base. I don't think. I mean,
It's
not
gonna be
even
like
that really.
50 people in like motorhomes or
right,
something.
when there's I don't know what the actual distance is, a few thousand yards, a half a mile, but there's some buffer around the base where you're just not allowed to be.
Yeah, except the buffer's like a lot. It's
Yeah.
like 10 miles. It's like 20 miles. It's insane. There's a huge ass buffer.
And
By
like,
buffer, what do you mean
miles.
exactly?
There's like an area around the outside of the fences and the gates that like you're not allowed to be within a certain distance.
Is there something preventing you from being within a distance?
There are many guard towers, and apparently, I don't know what the correct term is, but there are certain facilities the federal government has literally designated that basically the idea is anyone trying to get in just gets killed. Like, they don't ask questions. They don't worry about, like, if you're trying to physically enter the facility and they can see you doing it, they shoot you.
Okay.
They basically have cameras, they
Yeah.
have signs, they have some minor fencing. There's not like a whole long fence, but it's 100% clear you're not supposed to be there. The buffer's huge.
Yeah.
And like Steve said, they'll basically shoot you before you can make it anywhere close to the base.
All right, I'm going to give you guys some example scenarios here.
Right.
Let's say 50 people show up there. 50 people.
I mean, if they stay outside the buffer, I think they're probably just going to get left alone.
All right, let's say 50 people approach the buffer and they just keep going.
They'll probably just bring in a lot of guards and like fucking tear gas them or just shoot them with rubber bullets and fuck them up.
At this point, they know these people are coming.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to probably try to handle
ready.
if a group shows up, I think they're going to try to handle it in a way that prevents anything too terrible from happening. Well, they don't they don't really want news stories saying, 50
The
people
government
got shot.
people. And that's basically the whole point of the group. It's like, look, they can't shoot 700,000 people, and it's like,
they can. They'll just try not to for like 3 minutes.
Well,
before
that's
they
what I was
start
going to
doing
say.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, let's say it's not 50 people, it's 100,000 people.
Right. Well, even if it was, let's say it actually was.
Okay.
Do 100,000 civilians think they can really storm an army base? I mean, I guess maybe they get on Area 51, but I don't know.
the stupidest thing is, even if they made it, what are they going to do? Everything's going to be locked. Everything's probably fucking thousands of feet underground.
the
It's a
hangars
fucking
are
military
secure.
base. Yeah. Oh, hey, dude, let us know the codes. They're just going to be like, no.
Well, they're going to go in there, they're going to punch out a guard, they're going to grab his
Right.
hand, they're going to put it on the pass key thing.
And it's been weeks at this point. Clearly, look, anything we know about, because it's on fucking Reddit, like the federal government is aware of.
Dog, they read your emails.
No,
and
they
scan
don't
the
check
internet.
Reddit.
Okay, it's the one site they don't look at, so we're fine.
No, they don't check Reddit. I've heard.
Right? But like...
Snowden made it clear that they just... Everything's being monitored, even before the fucking memes. They know.
Right.
They're just going to move this shit.
If they realistically thought there was any possibility at all of anybody getting to anything that they don't want seen, it's gone, or it's been put under extra lock and key, or there's extra soldiers guarding it or something. Yeah.
You want to go even crazier? All the shit's probably been moved for years already because people have known about Area 51. They probably moved that shit the second Area 51 started getting popular like 20 years ago.
I would
They
bet
moved that shit probably.
that one part of MIB, no, it's ID4. That one part of ID4 where it's all underground, seems like the most plausible thing to me.
And that goes back to what I said. How are these fucking weebs going to get underground?
Well,
Why are they weaves?
It's going to be a bunch of guys wearing fedoras, carrying cheap knockoff samurai swords with a fucking suitcase packed with only a plush doll of the girl they call their wife.
They're weebs because only weebs can make memes
Why are
that fucking dank.
What if?
There's going to be a huge number of people that bought that girl's bathwater.
Oh, no.
It's the fucking internet. You're
Like I
you're
said,
gathering
50
a
people.
fucking army off Reddit and 4chan. They're going to be weebs.
Good call.
Fucking normal.
What if a bunch of people go there and the government just trolls them by putting on some crazy like light show and make it seem like they have these like alien vessels?
Oh my god.
Wouldn't that be epic?
If I ran that facility and I get away with doing it, that's exactly what I'd do. I'd have them build like a functional flying Millennium Falcon or something and just troll the shit out of those people.
It's even better when they use our taxpayer money.
Right? You know what? If the federal government is listening to this episode, you can feel free to use my tax money to troll these people. I
thank you,
can't speak
Steve.
for anyone else, but you can use mine.
I think it's going to
fine.
cost more than $600, Steve. I'm
Now
sorry.
that they had your permission, they were probably going to do it anyways.
Ugh.
But yeah, this whole thing's a fucking joke.
We're really dating ourselves with this intro.
Right, we haven't even started talking about the movie this episode's about yet.
And we're not going to talk about it yet because I actually have another question for you guys. All right? Now, what's your favorite Keanu Reeves film? And I'm going to go with you one at a time, starting with Alan.
Oof.
Okay, I got a good one. I don't know if you saw this, and it wasn't a relatively known movie. There was a movie in 2008 called Street Kings, and it had Chris Evans. It had Keanu Reeves. It had Chris Evans, Forrest Whitaker. It had Hugh Laurie, House. It was a cop movie. It was set in LA. And look, it's not the best movie you'll ever see. It's subpar.
What is your
I kind of
favorite
enjoy it.
Keanu Reeves film?
I liked it. I liked Keanu Reeves' acting in it because he's supposed to be like this semi-alcoholic, like hard-ass cop. He's like kind of just like a tough guy, and he does things like by his own rules. And it has Chris
You blew
Evans.
up an entire city block, Keanu Reeves. Someone's got to get the job done.
Is Keanu Reeves' partner, and I don't know. It's just like to me that was kind of just a fun movie. It didn't take itself like super seriously.
That sounds cool. It sounds like something we should watch someday.
Yeah, and again, it's not the best movie ever, but it has Keanu Reeves.
Now, I'm going to give mine before Steve. Now, my favorite Keanu Reeves film is Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Really? I like both, but you're going bogus.
I like Bogus Journey more. I think it's more fun. There's so many layers of that movie.
It's true.
About what is going on. It's just like insanity.
Yeah.
And I like the ending a lot. I like how like they finally wrap up the storyline, so to speak. They say like how Bill and Ted like got to this point, and they finally used time travel in the end to achieve it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's really funny. I think it just kind of, adds on to the first movie. Like it takes it one step further than the first one did. The first one's a good time. I like it. I think it's pretty fun, and George Carlin's great. But anyway, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey would be my choice for sure. What about you, Steve?
I'm having a hard time deciding. Like, I thought I'd double check his resumes to remind myself, see if there's anything I was forgetting. I mean, he's been acting since 85. I mean, River's Edge, Dangerous Liaisons, both Bill and Ted movies. Speed, Point Break. My Own Private Idaho was actually really a very good movie. Gus Van Sant film with River Phoenix.
Never saw it.
What a surprise. It's all right. I don't know. I like, honestly, that's a tough choice. It is a really tough choice. You know what? Can we bundle Bill and Ted into like one mega movie? Can we just say the Bill and Ted movies?
Yeah, I think so. That's fair.
I think that's just him at like the core of like who he really was at the time. Like he's gotten so much more serious.
Get ready for the third one. Isn't that third one coming up?
Yeah, Alex Winter's first real job in 30 years.
No, I saw him at the gas station the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah. Well, he works there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I like him.
I do too. I'm just messing around. I just haven't seen him in a movie for a long time. Alex Winter, if you're listening, and I know you are.
We like you.
Yeah, we do like you.
Lost Boys is awesome.
Dead, so I don't know.
Lost Boys is great. That's right. I forgot that he was one of the side vampires. He wasn't the main vampire.
No, Kiefer was the main vampire. Yeah. But yeah.
Anyway, Keanu Reeves is pretty popular right now, which is one of the reasons why we did this movie.
Cyberpunk, dude. He's in the new Cyberpunk game.
Yeah, which is Cyberpunk. Does this qualify?
Actually, funnily enough, yeah.
Not only does it qualify, but it's based on a story written by a guy named William Gibson, who I am a huge fan of. The movie's very little like the source material, but Gibson is... It would not be unreasonable or unfair to assert that Gibson invented cyberpunk, and at the very least was among the first people to publish inside the genre at all. He is credited with inventing the term cyberspace. I mean, the story this is based on was written in 1980. So, yeah.
So I just want to make a point. There might be some movies I'm probably missing, but Keanu Reeves has been in his fair share of like cyberpunk, futuristic movies, games. He did Johnny Mnemonic, which we're going over. The Matrix, all three Matrix movies.
Yeah.
He did, what was that one, Replicas, where he's like that scientist?
Oh my god, dude.
He did that one.
Even get me started with fucking Replicas. Dude, I saw that movie this year, right? Yeah. So I think Replicas was made like 2 years ago, but it's one of those films that was put off for a couple years. Dude, it is so bad.
Okay, maybe
you cannot believe how fucking bad this is. And I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to sci-fi movies. Like, I give a lot of leeway with sci-fi and fantasy. I'm hard on pretty much any other genre, but fuck that movie, dude. It is that movie does not know what it wants to be.
He's in Cyberpunk, and I'm pretty sure there's some stuff I'm missing, but it seems like he's done a lot of...
Yeah, I mean, and like most notably The Matrix.
That's
Matrix,
like... Yeah, all three. He did three of them.
So we touched on it in a moment we were talking during our watching of the movie, but in the story this is based on, one of the elements of that world is that people spend a huge percentage of their time in a VR-based world socializing with each other. It's actually not that dissimilar a concept to Ready Player One, but from years before.
And now almost.
And now almost. And in the book, or the story, because it was actually published in multiple parts in a magazine first, so it didn't start off being a book, but in the story, Gibson refers to that VR network as the Matrix. That was the name he gave to it.
Okay, so that is one of the first of many similarities.
17
with this
years
and
before the Matrix. No, 18 years before the Matrix, yeah. So
there's a lot of things that happen in this film where you're like, that's like the Matrix.
right? Yeah, I mean, stories like Gibson's were, I think, a huge influence for the Wachowskis for the Matrix. I mean, they really, I don't want to take anything away from how good the first one was, but they really did kind of cherry pick things other cyberpunk authors and other people had done before them and just kind of coalesced it into one idea.
Isn't that like a lot of cyber stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
that's like everything almost.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. It is like everything, I mean, everything's influenced by something else, right?
Right.
I mean, here it is, the Star Wars reference, right?
Right.
I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it hadn't been for Akira Kurosawa and Buck Rogers, Star Wars might not exist. I mean, and Lucas admits that up front. They were two of his main inspirations for the film, so...
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the serial from...
That's
Defenders of the Earth?
It was Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon.
Flash
I think,
Gordon,
were the ones.
yeah. Flash Gordon was a big one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Steve, do you have any interesting thing to say about your experience with this film before we talk about the film itself? Because Alan and I hadn't seen it until today.
No, never saw it. Well, Steve, go first.
Yeah.
Well,
Let me guess, you knew of it.
yep. I knew of it. I remember seeing the posters for it and that fucking VR headset he has. I remember that, but I never saw the movie.
The
Yeah,
design on that was pretty prescient. I mean, it looks basically just like a PSVR or a Vive.
Yeah, it does look pretty
Not
good.
too dissimilar.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve? You see this in theaters in 95 or?
I did. I saw it with a friend of mine. I liked it. There was nothing all that, I don't know, there's no real fun story attached to this one. It was just a day we went to the movies, but I liked it. Like, yeah.
Has it held a special place in your heart ever since?
You know what, to a degree, yeah. Like, I'm not saying it's because it's an amazing film, but there is definitely something nostalgic about this movie for me. I was really kind of just discovering Cyberpunk at 12. I'd only recently learned who William Gibson, the author of the story, was, and it was the same year that the original Ghost in the Shell anime came out, which introduced me to the manga it was based on. That was formative, so definitely nostalgia there.
I believe this came out the same year as Hackers as well.
Yes, it did, actually, so yeah.
Oh, damn, dude. Two
Yeah.
cyber movies in a year?
And I saw both in theaters and enjoyed both, so there you go.
You know what I saw in theaters in 95? Jumanji
Me too.
and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie.
Me too, unfortunately.
I gotta ask, Steve, is this on Laserdisc?
Absolutely, and I own it on Laserdisc.
You do?
In fact, one of the interesting things about this one is that the Japanese release was edited differently. And the translations used for the Japanese subtitles do not match up in every instance with what they're actually saying in English. The Japanese Laserdisc has the Japanese cut of the film on it, so it's kind of an interesting side piece because it is a slightly different presentation.
It's edited differently, you say?
Yeah, not by a tremendous amount, but there's a few extra scenes. Some of the dialogue has changed in the subtitling. There's a few extra lines of dialogue from Dolph Lundgren's character. Yeah, they make a point in the Japanese release of featuring Takahashi, the senior Yakuza guy who we'll talk about. It's played by an actor named Beat Takashi. He's a writer, director, and comedian. Really interesting dude. Was an engineering student. Dropped out of university at 19 to go work at what was basically a big strip club where he operated the elevator. He decided to start spending a bunch of time with their in-house comedian who taught him how to do stand-up. He eventually started emceeing and doing stand-up in this strip club, and then met another Japanese man, and they developed a 2-person comedy act that went hugely popular. And it was not like vulgar or adult oriented. It was mostly just verbal humor. And then he went on to acting and directing. And what's really interesting is pretty much all of his work in film, regardless of whether he was just an actor or directing, has all been detective stuff and Yakuza stuff. Like, he doesn't do comedies on film. He totally just left the comedy aside. And Japanese audiences took a long time to take him seriously. Like, he won a huge directing award in 97, and it was then all of a sudden people were like, oh, okay. But anyway, part of the reason they re-edited for Japan is there were a few extra scenes featuring him.
I see.
Yeah.
I just realized he was in the new Ghost in the Shell movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he was The main old guy.
Oh yeah, he plays
Like a similar.
the captain. His name is escaping me now, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was him too.
Yeah, he's been in a ton of movies, and I mean some of the most highly regarded like Japanese crime films ever made. Like one of the most famous Japanese like detective films is one of his movies.
Do you remember which one that is?
The titles. It was like his first feature film made in I think the late '80s, but the title of it is escaping me at the moment.
What a legend.
Yeah, no, seriously though, I mean, like, funny, not a guy a lot of Americans would know, but really, like, from the perspective of cinematic history, definitely an important. One Japanese film critic actually called him the rightful successor to Kurosawa.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. So, yeah.
Well, let's get into Johnny Mnemonic.
Yes.
It starts off with a big opening crawl that has a lot of text in it.
It's
Steve?
the biggest text crawl in the history of mankind.
They throw you right into it. Like, they just start explaining shit.
I mean, anyone who thinks Episode 1 or Blade Runner have confusing text crawls, you have never seen Johnny Mnemonic.
I was confused as fuck when it came out.
Yeah, I couldn't take notes on it. Being that this was my first time seeing it, I had to pay as close attention as I could, but that text crawl is heavy. Steve, I'm going to have you take the reins on this one and pretty much the rest of the episode.
It's a lot more than it really needs to be. It basically just sets up that, like, the world has been completely digitized, that technology of all sorts are at the core of everyone's life, and that there's an epidemic ongoing of something known as NAS, or nerve attenuation syndrome.
Network attached storage.
Right?
It's a big problem.
Which, according to the text crawl, they don't know the cause of, but we get a counter to that later in the film.
So they pronounce that as NAS, right?
Yes, NAS.
So I thought it was going to be NOS, so I could insert Fast and the Furious clips.
Right?
But it turns out I can't.
I need NOS. I need NOS.
But it's a nasty disease that basically affects your nervous system, makes you go convulsive, gives you seizures, and eventually will kill you.
Damn.
They also point out, like, corporations rule the world.
Yeah, it's
and it's really just one.
You're just pointing that out. That's just the way the world is. They're like, just as a reminder,
right.
Outside of this film and in this film.
Conceptually, I don't know if you guys are familiar, there's a concept, a Japanese concept, they call it Zaibatsu. The idea is basically like a small cluster of really huge companies that basically control everything between them.
Isn't that a conglomerate?
Sort of, yeah. But this is like when you've got 3 or 4 companies that aren't owned by the same people, but between them they dominate like the entire landscape.
There's some like term for like not all of.
Yeah, I mean in Japanese it is Zaibatsu, but yeah.
Isn't that like not good?
Right. No, I mean that's the thing, and that's kind of the world.
Not good. Yeah.
Right. That's kind of the world they live in. I mean, there's a lot of setup, right? There's a lot of setup for there's a lot of stuff, background and like environmental stuff you learn in the story that isn't in the film, but you don't necessarily need to know all of it.
They touch on it enough.
Yeah.
Basically, one of the guys, Henry Rollins, later on says that like all the electronics are like polluting the airwaves, so to speak, and creating interference in the air, which is toxic to human beings.
Gibson was a bit more specific, and then in the story, it's supposed to be basically electromagnetic radiation.
Like Wi-Fi gives you cancer?
Yeah, but he's trying to reinforce in the book and in the story anyway that like these people are living in a world where even the poorest members of society are just inundated with personal digital technology. There is no way to get away from it. They live in a city
Sounds familiar.
Right? But I mean 1,000 times the scale we've got now. They live in a city known as the Sprawl, which covers everything between Boston and Atlanta, and is covered in geodesic domes, and it's just like you can't go an inch without there being a broadcast system, a digital system, and so these people are being constantly bombarded with so much electromagnetic radiation that it actually effectively gives some of them this disease.
Dude, just like right now, dude, homeless people have cell phones and like laptops and like when you see tent cities, they have like electricity hooked up and TVs and shit.
Look, Steve said it's 1,000 times worse. So you
No,
know,
it really
how you
is.
have a phone?
Right.
Imagine having 1,000 phones.
Phones, right? No, that's right.
Oh, that homeless guy only has 200 phones.
You know, like
Not quite there.
fucking. I mean, we're starting to look like it, but like you know, we're the whole world is basically just one big integrated computer at this point,
And that's where we're going. Like,
right?
Not
No,
even
absolutely.
joking.
It's very prescient. I mean, like, look, Gibson was looking forward like to the actual future when he came up with a lot of this.
The Gibson.
The Gibson, hack the Gibson.
Hackers reference. So where does it take us when we actually start seeing people? Like, what are we at?
First scene, you're in a hotel in China, and Johnny has just woken up from a nap after spending the evening with a lady of the evening who is preparing to leave. And they have a little conversation that is really not consequential at all. And as soon as she's gone, Johnny makes a call to Ralphie. And Ralphie is played by Udo Kier, one of the weirdest German actors in the world. He's done a ton of really garbage stuff. This guy's in everything.
End of Days.
End of Days, Blade, fucking Judge Dredd. Like, I mean, he's been in a million movies. But he calls Ralphie to discuss the fact that he's waiting for Ralphie to arrange an operation. And this operation is going to be removing digital storage that is implanted in Johnny's brain. But he's unfortunately informed that the people who would be performing the storage, who would also be attempting to restore memories that Johnny lost when he had this digital memory installed, these people now want $1.5 million to perform the operation, much more than the 800 that Johnny was originally quoted, 800,000. And he now needs money to make up the difference. And Ralphie suggests, why don't you take a big paying job that I'll arrange for you?
One last job.
One last job.
ride. Now, from the beginning, I have to interject here. I mean, I know what he did, but they don't really explain what Ralphie is. He's like just his friend who hooks him up with jobs.
Yeah,
What
Jane
is
at
he
one point refers to him as
doing?
an agent for couriers and bodyguards.
So he's just some kind of like sketch guy who hooks you up with jobs.
Yeah, he's basically a middleman. Like, he arranges, he helps the people that want to move the data meet the people that will carry it for them, and he gets a cut out of the deal.
Okay, yeah. So he's just that guy.
Right.
So Johnny takes this job, right? And he's got to put data in his brain and then bring it to someplace.
Yeah, he's basically
Can't just like put it on a flash drive, right?
right. So this is another thing. They're kind of vague within the film. Gibson is very careful in the original written story to explain that what Johnny carries is data that these people just do not want it on any network. Any network. Very much as is the reality for us today. Everything in this world is networked. There's a tremendous amount of concern about what's being monitored and looked at. It's very difficult, right? Everything. Very difficult to really pass any kind of information along using normal networks without it being caught by somebody. There's an implication later in the film that there are still sort of hidden parts of the net that aren't actively being looked at. But basically, Johnny is there to carry stuff that they just would not want to put anywhere else on another network, and you wouldn't want it on loose media like a disc, because loose media can be stolen, it can be lost, it can be damaged. They figure if it's in this dude's brain, he's going to do everything possible to make sure it gets where it's supposed to be going, because who wants to fuck their own brain up? So
When you put it like that, though, but a person could still be killed, lost, damaged. I mean, you're just...
No, it's
the
true.
medium's the same. Like, you could still lose the person, mess it up. Like,
Yeah, but
the
I mean,
whole
you gotta
movie's based on that.
you're much more likely to lose a CD than your skull.
Not if people are ruthless. Like, they were trying to cut his head off. Like,
Right,
what's
but
the
most
difference
of
in
the
him?
time, like, nobody knows who the courier is. And here's the other big thing. Like, the way the data gets encrypted in his head, it is completely irremovable, undecipherable to anyone except who it's meant to go to.
Yeah, you're right.
Right? The way they set it up again throughout the movie is like, technically, this stuff can be hacked, but look at the lengths Johnny had to go to do it. The people cutting off Johnny's head are kind of unique in this case, because they don't need the actual data. They don't care about the data.
Oh, yeah, they just don't want it to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Their
fuck, you're
end
right.
game is never to decode it or look at it or sell it or use it. They literally just want to make sure it never gets anywhere.
Oh, shit, you just blew my mind, because that makes a lot more sense now.
Right? And that's really the big difference there, is like, because somebody else who wanted to steal it, it's all good and well to say, well, that person could cut Johnny's head off, but yeah, that's the thing, is like, what would they do with it? It's basically unhackable. So,
shit.
We'd have a sweet Keanu Reeves head.
right.
Dude, that makes a lot more sense now.
Right.
Shit.
You know, versus whatever other method. But yeah.
So how does he put this shit in his head?
There's
Jackson.
There's a data plug basically. Now this is another difference. I'm not going to deep dive too much, but like in the book, there's a whole method. He has to be in a trance, and part of the reason he's in the trance is so that he can't see or hear what's being put in his head. The idea is even Johnny's got no idea what the fuck it is. He's not allowed to know. It's just an extra level of security that he's not going to try to sell it to somebody else. Like he's got no idea what he's carrying. For all he knows, it's a fucking cookbook. I mean, clearly it's not going to be, but you got no idea. He goes, he meets these people that Ralphie has set him up with. They're going to dump a bunch of data in his head. Now, while we're learning about this is what's happening, we're also learning that Johnny's got 80 gigabytes worth of storage space in his brain. And
he's running low.
He's running low. Look, stories written in 1980 sounds like a huge amount of memory at the time.
Sure.
Well, it was.
And yeah, absolutely.
So basically, he could watch about, I'm going to be generous, he can watch about 20 movies and remember them, but he can't remember shit past that.
Not even at full quality, man. A good Blu-ray disc is like 50 gigs.
I was being generous.
Right.
Look at that.
Hey, there's something I saw. What did I see it? I'm gonna get this so wrong. It said like one single like human sperm has like 300 terabytes of like data or something.
Yeah, DNA.
Or DNA has some like incredible amount of like space requirements.
Right.
It's weird. It's crazy.
Damn.
Yeah.
So Johnny's got 80 gigs built in. Ralphie asks him whether or not he's gotten an upgrade that the two of them have apparently already spoken about. And Johnny lies and says no. Says yes. Says, I've gotten the upgrade. So Johnny goes, he's in the elevator going to meet the people that Ralphie has set him up with. And we see him using a memory doubler, a device that through unexplained means he can connect to his head and it doubles the amount of effective memory he's got. So he's now up to 160 gigs. And this is an important moment story-wise because it lets us know how much is there, but it's also coupled to a warning that you cannot exceed your storage capacity or it will probably kill you. It can also, they kind of give you more later on, it can also corrupt the data and make the data unusable, but basically, like, even for nothing else, like, this shit will leak into your brain, you don't want, just don't do it. Don't exceed your capacity, right?
Why doesn't he just double the doubled amount?
Right. See, I
get a memory quadrupler. He went right. He cheaped out. That's the thing. You go to Fry's, you see something that was like a little bit cheaper. You think this will take care of it.
And they're never specific about why. He does tell Jane at one point he's got 80 gigs of storage that he can double, and makes it sound as if that's the max. Like they don't really specifically say he can't go beyond that. But for me, the inference has always been there's some physical limitation with his install that makes 160 gigs just the max.
Now, suspension of disbelief aside, my problem with this was if you don't have enough space, like, it just won't work. Like, how can he go over the space? Like, it's just full. Like a hard drive. You can't just, like, put more shit and be like, it's full. It just doesn't work like that.
Definitely the big tech snafu.
Maybe he's got a lot of RAM.
Right?
He can just put the rest into memory.
Yeah, they talk about memory leaks and stuff. I think the idea is supposed to be that somehow it just starts dumping, like, into the actual brain. But, you're right, though.
Wouldn't that do it when it gets full in the first time? Like, where is it being stored?
It has to be an active memory. If you're thinking about it like a computer, that's the only possible scenario.
Yeah.
That's what
it's
I mean,
in RAM.
Where is it being stored?
Right.
Maybe he's got just a shit ton of RAM.
It would overflow from that exact moment when you reach the limit.
Yeah. So, clearly, obviously, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't try to go beyond his limit. Yeah.
So we'll say it's fine. It works out in this film.
Right.
He starts at 80, he doubles to 160.
We don't have to say the film fucking, it happens. Like,
right.
We don't have to allow
80.
this.
He uses the magic doubler to go to 160, and they give him 320.
Yeah. So he gets to the apartment or the hotel room and finds that what they've got for him is a package of data 320 gigabytes in size.
So it's 4 times what he originally should be able to handle.
All right. So it's a big difference, and he's got no idea what it is, but they set him up with a rig that's got a headset and a plug-in that goes to his brain, and this combination of hardware is used to dump the data in. And he explains in the moments leading up to their doing this that the data's got to be coupled to a kind of image-based passcode. You take 3 images, chosen by the person who owns the data. Those 3 images get embedded in with the data itself. The person receiving the data is sent the images to use as a key. And when that person downloads at the other end, they then input the images to unlock the data. And the guy who's working with Johnny on this to download or upload into his head decides to take 3 random images off a TV set, which is running anime.
Nice.
Right?
You know, they upload it and it's just like, boom, straight into fucking what you'd expect of like early to mid 90s cyberspace.
Right.
Just like hackers, dude.
Alan, can you describe the cyberspace the way it looks in this movie?
Oh boy. I don't honestly, I'm struggling here. What is it? It's like hackers when I don't even fucking put it.
What I liked about hackers is they had like math formulas, but they don't do that exactly.
No, there's no math formula.
This is more like weird sciencey. It's more like falling in a hole of like random shitty CG, just swirling around you and like, you know, electronic shapes, like 3-dimensional, like flying by and shit. While he's in there, he'll grab one and he'll like move it to the side for some reason.
Everything's kind of floating. Like it's like a virtual world that you can control almost.
Yeah,
interact with it all. Yeah.
Yeah, have you ever seen the Lawnmower Man trailer?
Yeah. You ever seen the Lawnmower Man trailer?
Yeah. I can't speak to the film. I've only seen the trailer.
The only thing I know about that movie is when I saw the trailer.
Watch the trailer and you'll get it.
Fuck off, all right?
Right?
So during this whole thing, when he's getting all this data, everything goes wrong. Well, not everything.
Now, right before that, I'm going to interject with another Matrix.
Okay, go ahead. Cliffhanger moment, but go ahead.
Because he jacks in the back of his skull, just like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Oh, he puts the connector into the back of his head.
So that's Matrix reference count meter.
Yeah.
Making Matrix references years before the Matrix was made.
Right. Well, we're making the reference now.
Oh, it's true.
In the future.
And then shortly after that, when everything starts to go wrong, you see all the Yakuza guys come up to the building.
Yeah, so those are the goons in this film. It's a bunch of Yakuza guys.
Morpheus?
Yeah. There's that's right. One. The guy looks like Morpheus.
There's another one, like back-to-back Matrix.
You're right, because they're all dressed like Matrix-y. Like, they're all wearing, like, the black leather coats and stuff. And this was a little bit before that was cool. It wasn't really cool until The Matrix came out. So it just
probably still wasn't that cool when The Matrix came out.
I thought it was, but I was in 7th grade, so what the fuck did I know? So yeah, these Yakuza guys show up and they just start fucking shit up. They just start killing everyone in the room. One of the guys has like one of the coolest weapons I've seen in a 90s sci-fi movie ever, which is like a lightsaber whip. Kind of. It's like a laser whip.
It's like a wire, like almost like a garrote, but it's made of laser.
Yeah, you're right. It's more like that. It's more like you choke someone out with it, right?
Right.
It's actually
but it cuts through flesh.
But he doesn't just use it to like choke people. He's like fucking using it like a goddamn blade.
Right.
It's actually just electrified floss. He has a thing of floss and you just put some power through it.
Is it minty? I like the minty floss.
It's for Jaws. Not the shark, the Moonraker. Anyway.
I thought he used like that steel cable.
And he eats tires instead of licorice.
Right. Goodyears are great. Very tasty.
So what happens next, Steve? What's going on among all this commotion?
So the Yakuza have invaded the hotel room and have busted things up. They've managed to interrupt. Johnny's gotten all the data into his head, but the people who were doing the upload were in the process of trying to send the password key, the 3-image key, to someone at the other end, at another end, which you don't know where that is yet. They were in the process of doing that when the Yakuza came in. So the transmission does not go through. Johnny struggles to not be killed, manages to kill a guy to protect himself when he's hiding in the bathroom, or at least knock him out. And Johnny then goes to try to retrieve the slip with the images on it that are being sent to these people for the password. But while he's doing that, he's attacked by Garrote guy, Shinji, who's like a Yakuza assassin.
Garrote guy.
Garrote guy, right?
Hold that thought. I don't mean to interrupt. My first question when I saw this is like, why are the Yakuza in China? Why is the Yakuza the main focus? Like, why the Yakuza?
Right. So part of that is an extension, like the city of Chiba in Japan is like a main focal point within the world that Gibson created for this universe. Almost all his books take place within the context of this universe. Pharmacom, which turns out to be the corporate villain in this movie, for whatever reason, uses the Yakuza to do dirty work on their behalf, and they've just been hired. So
just the Yakuza. That's who they picked.
Yeah, that's who they picked.
Okay.
Right? For whatever reason, like they've got a relationship with the Yakuza, so they asked the Yakuza to like find this courier and kill him, and so a few of them, Shinji leading the group, get sent to Beijing to do it.
And that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
You know, the Yakuza can travel.
Right?
They are not limited to that one country, Alan.
They can travel, but for a story that's supposed to be this dystopian corporation future, I mean, they could pick anyone. Like, I guess it doesn't really matter in that sense, but they can't pick the triads or like fucking anyone.
Nah,
like
I'm already doing business with the Yakuza.
Okay.
It's the fucking Yakuza,
All right.
okay?
They're pretty cool.
That's who the author likes, apparently. That's what we're going with.
Right.
So Keanu Reeves does get out of there, and he travels back to Newark, New Jersey. Now, I don't know if we've set this up well enough, but like the world in which this thing takes place is like, man, how do you describe this place? Alan, maybe you can give it a better shot than me. You mentioned dystopian. Maybe you can expand on that. It's not like your Mad Max dystopian.
No, it's not like your Mad Max. It's
Cyberpunk dystopia.
Cyberpunk dystopia, where there's a lot of like not anarchy, but a lot of lawlessness, a lot of homeless people or like kind of vagrant looking people. And for some reason, not this whole movie, there's like no police or like any kind of like law enforcement for some reason.
Yeah, you
So
can
it just
tell they
seems like
don't
a
really
very-
pay attention to
Like
the
a lawless future where people are just kind of doing their own thing, surviving, scavenging.
Gibson's setup for this world is very much that like there are only little clusters where you'll find wealthy people, and everyone else is living in some degree of basically shit.
Yeah, it is shitty. There's a lot of technology, but it's like shit. There's like loose wires hanging around and like computers stacked up that are like half of them are junk. There's junked out cars.
People are like scavenging stuff.
Yeah. So there's a lot of mist. There's a lot of dry ice present.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you see like what's happening on the ground in Blade Runner, or like what's happening. There's that scene in Fifth Element where he's got Lilu in the back of his cab. He's trying to outrun the police, so he goes diving through the fog toward the ground. They never expand on it. You can tell there's this whole other like society down there on the ground.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it.
It's kind of like what was the movie with Matt Damon and that space station? Elysium.
Yeah.
Where everyone lives on the space station, but when they show Earth, everything's just like terrible.
I was gonna say it's like Dino Hatton.
Dino Hatton. It is a little bit. It's like Cyberpunk Dino Hatton.
Yep.
Cyber Dino Hatton. Now we're cross mixing things.
So we get to meet a few more characters in New Jersey. There's like this nightclub. We got Spider.
Right. We got Spider. Well, then he there's a bridge scene that actually gets him to Newark, and I'm forgetting how it breaks down. But in any case, he's in Newark, and he's there partly to reconnect with Ralphie in person. Well, sort of. He goes to Newark because that's where the customer is, and he tells Ralphie he's there, and Ralphie sets up a meeting for him. When he goes out to this meeting, it's our first introduction to a group of people who refer themselves as the low-techs. These are people that live off the grid, that use some technology but refuse to be as involved with it as everyone else. As I mentioned, in the original story, this giant sprawl city has hundreds of millions of people living in it and is covered by geodesic domes. In the story, they live in framework they've built up at the top of the domes, way above everyone else. In the movie, for whatever reason, the domes are not there, and they're basically living in, I don't know which bridge it is, but one of the bridges that connects New Jersey to New York. They're basically living up there.
And Ice-T is their leader.
Ice-T is their leader.
As J-Bone?
As J-Bone.
J-Bone. That's his name.
So Johnny goes out for this meeting that Ralphie has set up with him, encounters... first he goes in for the meeting and discovers that the people he's meeting with are not there to get this data out of his head. They're there to murder him. And in his attempt to escape from them, he encounters J-Bone, the leader of the Low-Techs, and we get introduced to what they are. And that leads into Johnny going and finding Ralphie, which is really how we start getting the additional characters. So, I don't know if someone else wants to...
Yeah, because we find out Ralphie set him up. Which I was confused about. Let's go back, because I'm actually confused. So Ralphie set up this whole thing.
Right.
With Johnny. And did Ralphie knew the people were trying to kill him? Like, who are those guys trying to kill him the first time?
So when the Yakuza encounter him in the hotel while he's getting uploaded, that was them operating without having had any contact with Ralphie. Like
Ralphie didn't know about the Yakuza guys.
Not to begin with.
Okay.
But the guys that were tried to kill Johnny at the meetup were effectively like Yakuza affiliated. And the idea is that at some point they got to Ralphie and said, "You don't need to know what that data is, but it's stuff we don't want to get out. If you help us capture Johnny so that we can cut his head off, not only will we not kill you, but we'll pay you for your trouble."
So Ralphie knew after the fact. So the first ambush, Ralphie didn't know.
Yeah, he had no idea. Because the other thing is like, even he's got no idea what's being uploaded to Johnny's head. All he knows is that he sent Johnny to get data.
And it's some crazy shit now.
Yeah.
So the guys that try to attack Johnny, like, which he takes out, like, I wanted to briefly touch on this because I don't know if we'll talk about it a whole lot. There's actually a pretty good, like, hand-to-hand scene that goes on with Johnny and the guys that are attacking him.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is, like, I think he's one of the best, like, mainstream, like, A-list celebrities, American, that can actually pull off some pretty good hand-to-hand, like, fight scenes. It's brief, but it's pretty good. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
No, he seems to do pretty well with, like, in the John Wick movies, too.
Yeah, in The Matrix.
Yeah.
The fight choreography is always really good.
Well, you know, he's Jesus in The Matrix, so of course he's going to be good.
Is he, though?
Well, Jesus by a different name.
Okay, so yeah, he escapes from the botched meeting, and then he goes to find Ralphie because he's like, "You set me up, like, I'm gonna fucking kill you."
Right? And he asks why, and like even Ralphie's like, "I really have no idea why, other than that they didn't want that data to be out." Like,
now a fight breaks out here, and Ralphie gets his ass killed in a pretty epic way.
Yeah. Well, so Johnny finds Ralphie in the men's room and assaults him, threatens to kill him, and then Johnny's strangely androgynous but female bodyguards come in, and one of them hits Johnny over the head. This scene plays out totally differently than it did in the story. In the story, this all happens like at a table, and they use an immobilizer to basically force Johnny still. But when Johnny comes around again after having his head knocked, he finds these tied to a table. Ralphie and his two bodyguards are there, and Shinji, the Yakuza assassin, is hanging around, and they're going to decapitate him. Now, fortunately for him, Jane, a chick who hangs around at the bar where Ralphie does his business, saw Ralphie and his bodyguards leave with Johnny's unconscious body, knew that something bad was going to happen, and followed them to where they were going. She kind of saves Johnny last second from having his head removed when he offers her $50,000 if she'll cut him loose and take him with her rather than leaving him to be decapitated. A promise which he is not held to later.
My problem with this scene was that it's the classic trope where they take their time explaining shit like, all right, we got strapped to this table, I'm going to talk for like 4 minutes, and then we'll cut your head off. Like,
How you feeling, Johnny?
What'd they upload, Ralphie? The goddamn Library of Congress. Feels like my brain's gonna explode.
I think your friend here, he can take care of that.
Ralphie, you lying sack of shit.
Please, let's work this out like gentlemen. Johnny, in this business you only fuck up once with the Yakuza.
Shinji should have just fucking killed him the second he saw him.
Right.
And just fucking chopped his head off. Done.
Yeah, just get it done.
If it's that sensitive,
Yakuza
they're making
assassin.
the movie, yeah.
Alan, there are certain rules these guys gotta follow. You don't understand.
Right.
They make it so important, and then they
you'd
fucking
never
don't
make
kill
it
him.
through Henchman 101.
So I guess it's probably worth noting, we've already established at this point that Jane's been hanging around the bar trying to get Ralphie to get her work as a bodyguard. Something which he will not do because A, she has augments that he thinks were poorly done, and B, she apparently has NAS. And the NAS is causing nervous system damage. She can't hold her hand still, so he won't help her get any work. She's pissed off at him about that. She's also pissed off because she's sick. She believes the 50 grand she's going to get from Johnny is going to help her cure herself, or at least get her treatment for NAS.
Right.
And she is physically augmented, makes her a bit stronger. She's much more involved in terms of the augmentation of the story and has like razor blades installed under her.
Well, she's pretty badass. Like, she's a good fighter. She makes a good sidekick to Keanu Reeves in this.
Yeah.
It's just that she kind of glitches out and has seizures every now and then. But then again, so does Keanu Reeves because he's got all that shit in his head.
Right.
It's overflowing.
Yeah, it's overflowing, man.
And that character's name is Molly Millions in the original story. Apparently, they had to change it because her first appearance was in William Gibson's first novel, Neuromancer. They've never made it into a movie. But at some point, I think during the 80s, he sold the rights to make it into a movie to someone who has not used them yet. And the correct character name for her was tied up in the rights for Neuromancer. So he had to give her a different name in this to not violate the deal for that.
So they had to think of the most basic name they possibly could.
Yeah, right?
Jane.
And at some point, she appears in one of his most famous sets of books called the Sprawl Trilogy. At some point in one of them, I'm pretty sure she mentions that she tells a story about where Johnny went after the story, and then alludes that he may be dead. So, yeah.
No, Keanu Reeves doesn't die.
Right?
I'm sorry.
Legends never die.
So, Johnny needs to get this shit out of his head, right?
Yeah.
Now,
priority number 1, get this shit out of his head.
His whole thing is like, look, I'm going to get this data out of my head. I'm going to be back to semi-normal. I'm going to make enough money to where I can get my childhood memories back. That's why he can carry shit in his head, right? Because he had his memories like temporarily deleted, I guess.
He had his childhood memories deleted to make room for that augment. And he yells at her that you have parents and stuff.
I needed the space for the job.
Well, you got parents and stuff?
You got parents and stuff?
Yeah. Once. But I haven't seen them in years.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't think about it much, okay?
Oh, I love that, man. The way he delivers that is epic. Classic Keanu Reeves style. See, I maintain that this is before he became a good actor, which happened, I don't know, about a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Keanu Reeves, and I like a lot of the movies he's been in, but, like, I can think of, like, 3 instances where I'd actually say his acting was good, and the rest of his career is just like, oh, it's Keanu Reeves being Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I can't say that, Steve. You doomed the episode.
Right?
I mean, you know,
You're gonna get hate bombed.
I'm sure he's a very nice guy, and he seems cool, but he comes off as kind of like an airhead a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was interesting. Like, he was in one early on called River's Edge, which was a mystery sort of thriller, and, like, he was very much like an airhead character, but it was a really good performance of an airhead character. So, yeah.
Dude, he's just
Perfect.
chilling, man. Maybe he's high. I don't know.
I hope so.
At one point, Keanu Reeves needs to find a computer.
I think I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need a computer!
And they do. They go into some, I don't know, somehow, this is a little bit of a side note here, but the transitions in this movie are not well done.
No.
They go
Not
from one thing to
explained.
another so fast you don't know what the fuck just happened. But anyway, he goes to a computer place where there's computer equipment around. He starts like spitting off a bunch of like fake tech equipment that he needs.
Shit ass
parts.
words, yeah.
I need a Sinologic 16, Sogo 7 data gloves, a GPL stealth module, 1 Birdine intelligent translator, and Thompson iPhones.
Yeah.
Power gloves.
But essentially, he straps into this computer, he puts on his VR headset, his dual power gloves, and he fucking dives right into cyberspace. He's like in there like Tony Stark, like fucking moving around holograms, solving fucking virtual Rubik's cubes.
Like the triangle, he has to like decipher. Like, what the fuck is that?
He tries to get into this like encrypted password protected thing, and he like does it, and it's like password wrong. So like he grabs this cube and he like twists it around, so it's like authenticated, and he gets through.
Yeah, and he like, it's ridiculous.
It's pretty good. Why doesn't it work that way in real life?
It would be really awesome if it did.
He does find out a big piece of info in there that he needs to find Dr. Allcome.
Yeah, he somehow hacks. He hacks the hotel where they sent the fax from, and in the fax buffer, he finds out where it was sent to, and it was Dr. Allcome.
Right. What is Dr. Allcome, Steve?
It's COME, listeners. Despite the way Corey insists on pronouncing it.
I wasn't trying to.
Of course not. So you don't really find this out until later on, but Spider, who Jane is going to introduce Johnny to, explains to them that in the makeshift underground hospital in which he works in many other hospitals, apparently, or at least within this universe, the Dr. Allcome is a pseudonym used to denote emergency situations where you want every doctor in the area to come to a certain place. And that it's often used when you've got like a violent person in a hospital. So somebody might get on an intercom system and say, Dr. Allcome to Wing 3. And that just means like every doctor who's in the area who can get there needs to come to Wing 3 like right now because something's happening. Yeah. So basically
Mid-surgery.
Right?
Whatever the case
So we
may be.
find this out in a little bit, but that's basically what happened is that they sent it to him, so he knew did he know the data? He knew the data Johnny had from the beginning.
Yeah, like he
knew all
doesn't
about it.
know that Johnny. At first, he doesn't know that Johnny's the courier bringing it to him, but he eventually surmises, "Oh, you're that guy. Yeah, I know what's in your head."
Because, he was part of it from the beginning. They
Yeah.
sent it to him to help.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But, I mean, Johnny, after his little hacking thing, he's kind of on a time crunch. The bad guys are coming, so he has to get out of there. The scene right after that is pretty epic. Now, I say this because the best character in the movie is introduced. And he's
Okay.
Carl.
My main man, Carl.
Dolph Lundgren.
Carl
So-
Drago.
Exactly.
I have some things to say about Carl.
So who is Carl, Alan?
Carl is a blonde white guy, Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, it's Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren, who is like a religious zealot, and he has like a robe, and he's like in a church setting. I don't even know where he's supposed to be. There's like candles and scripture.
I think he's actually in a
like
church.
in a church. Yeah. His few lines always just reference something about sinning or like cleaning the unpure. Like the shit he says is so insane.
Bible verses left
Bible
and right.
verses speaking about Jesus. This is the same shit from Spider-Man 3 where Brock prays to God to kill Peter Parker. But Carl is like straight up just killing people in the name of like Jesus.
Killing in the name of.
Yeah.
I don't remember this character even existing in the story. It's been a handful of years now since I last read it, but I do not remember there being an equivalent to this
I
character.
think every movie like this needs a Carl.
Yeah.
He is amazing. He is so fucking hammy. He looks insane. He looks like Thor in Avengers Endgame, except maybe not fat. He's got like the big, long, crazy hair and beard.
He wears like
these,
a robe with like the hood.
He wears straight up Jedi robes, and he sometimes walks with like this like shepherd's staff, like Moses style. And he has a fucking knife, but it's a crucifix. It looks like a regular big crucifix, but at the end, it's sharp. It's a knife. It's fucking badass.
He's like one of the disciples from fucking ancient Rome living in this like future tech world.
And Carl goes out looking for Johnny at the instruction of a Yakuza guy hires him or whatever, right?
Yeah, Takashi, the senior Yakuza person for the Newark area, apparently. He apparently uses Carl quite a bit and hires him to help capture and kill Johnny. And you kind of find out later on that from the low text from J-Bone that Carl just does this kind of shit so that he can finance augmenting himself further. So he's like a junkie, an augmentation junkie.
And I like how they introduce him later, because this is supposed to be like, oh, we got to call him the crazy guy now. 'Cause we have to like, this is like his next step. Like, all right, those guys couldn't get him.
He's like the last resort.
Like calling Carl. Like they're desperate. Like he's insane, but we need this done.
Get me Carl.
I'm glad I wrote down his name because I think they only say his name once. Other than that, he just kind of shows up. No one actually really calls him by name later on.
This preacher or whatever.
It's like
Yeah, I think preacher is one thing they
preacher.
refer to him as.
He's not even like, well, I
He's
guess
a
he could be
fucking
preacher.
dick. He
Yeah.
goes up to this one like random guy who might be homeless. I don't really know, and he puts this dude's hand in like liquid nitrogen or
Oh
something.
no, that's Hooky. He's the bartender.
Oh, okay, the bartender.
Yeah.
He's trying to find out where they went.
Yeah, he wants to know where Jane went with Johnny, so he goes to the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he fucks the bartender up. He like smashes his hand. And then he like crucifies him.
Yeah, and then he crucifies him. Which is really, I mean, totally unnecessary.
Well, I like how he freezes the dude's hand, which is fucked up enough, and then he just smashes it with a fucking crowbar. And he's
Right.
like, or a pipe.
Yeah.
And then he asks the guy a question after that. Like,
Well, he freezes the hand first and then asks his first question. So I think what he's trying to do is basically like, I'm going to hammer the shit out of your frozen hand right now if you don't answer this question. Then Hooky doesn't answer him. So he gets it hammered.
Yeah.
still, he gets fucked up
Yeah,
first.
that's true.
Carl's fucking insane.
Yeah, I love Carl. He's great. Even though he's a total dick.
Killing people in the name of Jesus. I love when he says that.
They err in vision, they stumble in judgment. For all the tables are full of vomit and filthiness. So that there is no place clean.
Like, are you kidding me?
The Jesus' vengeance or whatever he says.
He's like, I am his wrath or something.
Right, yeah, I'm his wrath.
So Johnny and Jane, they meet up with Henry Rollins, who is Spider, right?
Yeah, yeah. So she takes him to Spider. Well, actually, that's not quite right. So while they're together, at one point he touches base with. No. All right. So we should really run a couple of steps. He breaks into the computer store with her. He uses this computer to find out where the fax went to Newark, like Alan said. But when he doesn't know what Dr. Allcome means and can't figure out who to go to, he logs into a part of what is effectively like the equivalent of like the dark net, where someone he knows runs a board, a message board or whatever, and he manages to speak to this person. Apparently this guy is so well connected, he'll have some idea what's in Johnny's head. And we don't get very much background on that at all. But he informs Johnny before the two of them are caught that whatever is in his head belongs to Pharmacom. He's carrying a bunch of Pharmacom data, and Pharmacom is a giant pharmaceuticals company. Johnny says, well, oh shit, I don't know why that would be the case, but he calls Pharmacom and arranges to meet a representative of the company, believing that they'll just remove the data from his head and let him live, which is a ridiculous thing to think. I don't know why he'd think that.
He seems to trust them because they're corporate. That's his reasoning.
Yeah, is that
How
they're
did
corporate?
What a
No
lunatic.
one contact them.
Yeah, it's another weird thing. I mean, I guess, it's the net, so you could just find the contact info.
And that's a great fucking lazy ass name. Oh, Pharmacom.
Right? And, fucking right.
Well, it conveys the idea, don't it?
Yeah, right? So he and Jane set off as if he's going to go meet this Pharmacom rep. But while they're leaving, she has a seizure related to her NAS.
Yeah.
And collapses. He intends to leave her there at first to go meet this Pharmacom rep. But right before her seizure, she'd been telling him what you should really do is go see this guy Spider. Because he used to be a doctor and he does all these implants and he knows how this stuff works and he can help you. And Johnny's kind of ignoring her. But after she has her seizure, she's like, I kind of need to go to Spider too. Like, because he can help with this. So they both end up going under the auspices that he's just going to drop her there and fucking leave. But, so they get over there. Spider is a former doctor working in like a warehouse. And, he's got a ton of computer equipment. He deals with a lot of implants. And he's helping Jane. And he has an exam. He examines Johnny. And, at first he doesn't realize that Johnny's the courier carrying the stuff that was meant for him. But he can see that Johnny's seeping. The data's leaking out of his storage unit into his brain. And this dude's got like a day to live before he's going to fucking get fried and die.
They set up that day pretty much right after he overloads the data. And I swear to God, it's been like way more than that.
I think it really is supposed to be a day.
The time doesn't flow.
But it doesn't feel like it, yeah.
I didn't get a good sense on the time flow because the movie just keeps going. I'm like, dude, they said a day.
A lot of it feels like one long night.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Yeah, I think that's really supposed to be. It's like the larger... it does take place over a day, but like the larger chunk of it takes place during the course of that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, they travel to like this NAS like warehouse facility a little bit later, but on the way there, they do see the best character ever, Carl, standing in the road. And while they're driving their fucking huge ass van, he's just standing in the road and he says like,
Hold, sinners! Fuck!
Spider, look out!
Who the fuck was that?
You don't want to know.
but they just run his ass right over.
They do
Classic fucking Carl. Like, he calls them sinners.
They do him Lopan style. Just bam.
Take his ass fucking out. It was dope.
Right.
They go to the facility. They're doing their little like techie experiments and shit. They find out that Johnny, in his head, that data is actually the cure for NAS. So that's a big plot point, right?
Yeah.
He's got that shit in his head. That's that huge amount of data, and they're trying to figure out like what to do with it, I think, or how to extract it.
Yeah, Johnny asks Spider who Dr. Allcom is, still believing it's a person. And it's in that moment that Spider realizes, oh shit, this dude's got that data in his head. Because he's Dr. Allcom. He's the one that would be addressed to. So that's why he takes Johnny and Jane to this facility and then explains to them what's up.
And they spend a little bit of time here figuring things out, but the most important thing that happens is, boom, Carl is back, baby.
Carl, dude.
Back, baby.
Carl shows up and just starts fucking shit up. Like, he's smashing shit around. He takes Henry Rollins and he crucifies him.
All right.
He pins him up against like a wall and like jams a spike through one hand and a spike through the other hand and then kills him.
Like overly religious fucking murder. Like, he has to crucify him. Like,
Right.
that's such a fucking...
It has to be symbolic.
Yeah.
Right? Because
He can't just kill him. Like, oh, I crucified him. It's so ridiculous.
he's got to like live up to his character traits.
One of the funniest, right before that, you forgot to mention that he comes in, he's introduced in that scene when a stretcher rolls into the room with like the cross in the person.
Yeah.
That's right in their chest, right?
Yeah, there's a cross in this guy's chest and it like kind of just rolls in the room and then it's like, oh, here's Carl.
You know shit's about to get good.
Here's Carl.
But Jane and Johnny do escape. So that's Johnny, Keanu Reeves, and Jane Dizzy from Starship Troopers.
Yeah, so right before he gets really attacked, Spider, Henry Rollins tells the two of them, he tells Jane to take Johnny to Jones.
Oh yeah, Jones was in the Navy.
Yeah, Jones. Take him to Jones.
There's a lot of this in the movie. It's like, okay, what do we do next? Well, you got to go see this guy.
Yeah.
And then they go see this guy. And he's like, well, you got to go see this guy.
It's a fucking quest.
It's a lot of passing the buck in this little community.
You're right, though. It's a quest thing. It's like a lot of movies are set up like video games. It's basically just like, look, you're going to have an A to D list of goals, and as you achieve each one, you just move on to the next one, and then you're done.
Yeah, and you'll make it to Jones. He's
Right.
the top
Well,
guy.
the comparison I kept making in my head was like Total Recall.
It's sort of true. He goes to see Kawato.
Right, but
Yeah.
like, I kind of like the way they do it in Total Recall a little bit better,
Oh,
just
yeah.
because it's like, okay, you got to
It's a
go
better
see the
movie.
one guy, and then you got to have the main goal after that guy gives you the goal.
Right.
So this guy is like, okay, go see John Doe over here, go see fucking Jonesy over here. Got to find Dr. Allcom. Oh, he's not real. Go see this guy instead.
Total
Go
Recall
see Ice-T.
was a more compelling adaptation, and it's a better movie despite it. But they're both rather non-accurate adaptations of work written by super, super prolific science fiction authors. Like, Total Recall is based on a short story by Philip K. Dick. And that guy was just one of the most prolific of all. But yeah.
Oh man, though, we got to get into Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get to Jones
that was
because
great.
before we do, it's like we got the, end of the second act crisis of the main character. Where he's like, I can't do this shit. I'm going to put an audio clip here because his rant is just epic.
You know, all my life, I've been careful to stay in my own corner. Looking out for number one, no complications. Now suddenly, I'm responsible for the entire fucking world. And everybody and his mother is trying to kill me if my head doesn't blow up first.
Maybe it's not just about you anymore.
Listen. You listen to me. You see that city over there? That's where I'm supposed to be. Not down here with the dogs and the garbage and the fucking last month's newspapers blowing back and forth. I've had it with them. I've had it with you. I've had it with all this. I want room service! I want the club sandwich. I want the cold Mexican beer. I want a $10,000 a night hooker! I want my shirts laundered. Like they do at the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo.
I love that part. The acting too, because he just goes off. Like, that was great, because he just loses his shit.
I feel like he probably like ad-libbed and just kept going and like, let's just keep the whole fucking thing, because he just really goes on and on.
I was expecting him to turn into Michael Douglas, and it just turns into Falling Down.
Yeah, that's it. He just starts wrecking shit after that. That'd be great. No, but they go to finish their quest. So they go meet up with Ice-T or J-Bone. Either one of those could be a rapper name, by the way. And it's like...
Ice-T or J-Bone? Which
completely
one's his real name?
as far as I'm concerned. Now, Steve, Ice-T introduces them to Jones, right? Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so they take Johnny and Jane into the facility, and Jane's got some idea of what Jones is, but doesn't really want to be specific.
She says he was in the Navy.
Right.
He has some augments, and she says something like, oh, not exactly, when he asks about it.
Right. And as they get into this facility and Johnny is shown everything, he comes to find that inside a giant water tank built into this facility, which is built into a bridge, they've got a dolphin, a huge white dolphin that has been significantly augmented with mechanical and computerized and electronic components, which they call Jones. In the novel or the story, Jones was used by the Navy to help find mines that were computer controlled, and it was part of a group of other trained dolphins that could reprogram the mines to blow up at the people that had planted them. And it was a really fucked up side story, actually. In Gibson's version of the story, the Navy would use heroin to keep the dolphins loyal. They'd reward them with heroin for successfully hacking mines.
You bastards.
So the dolphins would always do what they were told, and because they'd come back and get the heroin for doing it. So in the story, the low-techs really are not involved with Jones all that much in Gibson's original story, and Molly, the equivalent of Jane in the story, has to bring Jones a gigantic dose of opiates in order to get him to help them.
Gotta get that shit.
Right, which is obviously a story element that did not make it into the movie.
So in the story, it was a dolphin originally.
It was.
Because I feel like that threw me. I did not expect that.
Right.
I was like, what the fuck?
And
a dolphin? How could you see that coming?
And
he was in the Navy.
Right. Well, there have been. I think at this point they're replacing that idea with drones, but like the military has done studies like with trained animals to help them do stuff like that. And they do use. I think there are dogs that can sniff out mines. It's pretty crazy stuff.
That's why in the Jurassic World movies they always want to weaponize the velociraptors.
Right. Right. But yeah, in the movie, what does J-Bone explain? Basically, that like Jones was used to hack really heavily shielded systems with mega encryption, and because this dolphin knows how to do that, it would be able to hack Johnny's brain and retrieve the data.
Yeah, hack the dolphin.
Hack the dolphin.
And Jones is like, it's a dolphin, but he has like the mechanical parts, or he's like cyber dolphin, or he's like augmented.
Yep.
So he has like things attached to him, and
Robo
he's like
dolphin.
One side of his face has been completely replaced.
He basically looks like if a Borg assimilated a dolphin.
Right? Borg dolphin. It is kind of a disturbing image. It's a much harder, intelligent dolphin than the one from Sequest.
My first thought was, what did they do to Echo? Echo. After all you've gone through.
Right. I like that game.
You ever play it? Yeah, you played it?
Hell yeah, I did.
What about Tides of the Time?
That one I don't remember.
Depressing game, man. Echo is a depressing game.
Echo is a depressing game.
Yeah.
Like, man, there's some out there, like, Heavy Rain was a pretty crazy one. You ever play that one?
No.
It's about a serial killer. That game gets intense.
Is there dolphins involved?
No, it's just real intense.
Oh, okay.
You like just
The Origami
things?
Killer?
Yeah, the Origami
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, that shit's a really good game. Anyway.
So, Jones will now be referred to as Echo for the rest of the podcast. So, during this whole thing, so Johnny's trying to, like, mentally link with this fucking tech. They're like, you know, they're like Island of Lost Children fucking headgear. They're trying to link him to the dolphin. And the Yakuza show up.
You know
Everybody-
that movie? Almost nobody knows that movie. I fucking love that movie.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's a
Yeah.
great
Everybody
movie.
shows up. They all converge. This is like the final battle. You got the Yakuza guys with Shinji. And
Who has the laser whip.
Takashi, what was his name?
Yeah, Takashi.
Takashi.
No.
He shows up because he takes his helicopter and he has a gun and a sword.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, that actor's real name is Beat Takashi. Well, his company name, but he's Takashi in real life and Takahashi in the film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Takahashi showing up too. So you got the Shinji, Takahashi, and we can only assume fucking Carl. So like everybody showing up.
Wait, no, we got to give her a bigger reveal for Carl. Okay, not quite time for Carl.
This is the climax. You know, like he's with the dolphin. Everybody's like showing up. This is it. This
There's
is
fucking
what's going
rockets
down.
getting fired. People are getting stabbed. There's some really good deaths. There's like people getting like stabbed, which is pretty good. But there's like just like people getting shot with arrows in clever ways, like through the mouth. So like it like pins them to the back of the wall through their mouth. I don't know. There's really good gore in this scene, I think.
The low techs have this unexplained system where they just drop cars from like the bridge. It's like some kind of
old junked out
and
cars.
so yeah, they just like drop a car. So they do that like a couple times.
That's pretty sweet. I like it.
they hook Johnny up to Jones. Well, they hook Johnny up to the net once to have Jones try to help him, and the Yakuza shows up and Carl show up, start blowing shit up, and then J-Bone tells Johnny, our stuff's fucked up now. The only way you're gonna be able to do this is basically you just link yourself directly to Jones. So yeah,
Echo.
He has to hack his own brain.
Echo. Excuse me.
He tells him he has to hack his own brain.
Yeah, and then loop yourself to Jones.
Now, I know you said Carl shows up like it's just some nonchalant thing.
Oh no, it's not though.
Now,
Carl makes an entrance.
Dolph Lundgren walks into the room with the wind flowing in his hair. A bald eagle flies by in the background, and he literally says, "Jesus time."
That man has got like a PhD. I swear to God, Dolph Lundgren in real life has a fucking PhD.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, he's that smart. That's nuts.
I can't wait to make that meme, dude.
Dolph Lundgren is here to kick ass and quote Bible verses.
Right?
Y'all need Jesus.
It's like the only guy that can crush your skull explains physics to you. Like, fucking A.
Do you know why your skull is being crushed? The inertia of the...
Because you didn't repent, sinner.
I'm going to explain to you how all these chemicals that are leaking out of your brain work.
No, this is not the smart Dolph Lundgren. This is fucking Zealot.
Right.
This is Bible thumping.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Drago.
Crushed them. Yeah.
He's just gone nuts.
Yeah, Jesus time.
So separately, while Dolph Lundgren, Carl starts beating the shit out of Jane, but separately, Shinji and Johnny are having their own little fight. Now Shinji has this sweet laser. I call it a laser whip, but what's the word?
It's I forget what they call it in the story. It's like a nanowire
Floss.
It's got garrote, you know.
Laser floss, right? And he's
Laser
like,
garrote.
I'm gonna fucking taking care of those teeth, buddy.
Right.
So he goes after Johnny, and they have their own little fight, and he's got the laser whip, and I'm like, all right, he's gonna laser whip him, but the laser whip backfires, man. The laser whip is his own doom.
Yes, it is.
Johnny uses it against him and basically cuts the dude's head off.
Yeah, he like wraps it around him in the struggle and just.
Yep.
In the story, the Gibson story, Molly, Jane, manages to cut his hand off with it, but then the climactic fight with him is against her in the story. She cuts his hand off with it, and then he ends up falling through the bottom of the kind of enclosure that the low-techs are living in and just falling to the ground and dying. But yeah, in this one...
So that would be cool, because Jane is made out to be kind of a badass, but she doesn't get to do a lot in the finale.
And it's way more clever in the book. Like, she finds a way to basically disorient him and get him to accidentally fall down this huge gap to his death after she's taken his hand from him. And you're right, like, she gets used much more, and she's a featured character in several other stories. But anyway, so he and Johnny have it out, and they're hanging, and he's going to drop Johnny and then realizes he can't because he needs the head, and Johnny then fucking cuts his head off.
Should have gone for the head.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, let's go back a second. Shinji's the guy who wants it just not recovered. He doesn't give a fuck. Can he just drop him? Johnny dies, that's it.
No, he has to get the head.
What if he doesn't?
He's fucked.
Well, if Johnny's dead, that's fine.
No, he has to have the head.
They need that data.
Specifically, they want the head. They're going to kill him if he doesn't come back with it. So
if Johnny dies, let's say Johnny falls to his death, and his head's still intact, you didn't cut his head, is that data still recoverable?
Potentially, yeah.
Even though Johnny's dead?
They explain during the course of the story that, like, they not only need the data, they need to destroy everything the data's ever been in, because there's a chance they can even recover data from a disk that it had been wiped from. So, like, yeah.
On that same note, wouldn't they just have to wait the 24 hours? Because if it all leaks out, and they even mention it, it would be unrecoverable, corrupted.
For the most part.
Time just take care of it?
But they infer that there's still some possibility, even a portion of it could be rescued, and the only way to prevent that, it's like putting
100%, you need the head.
Yeah, it's like putting a hard drive inside a shredder.
Sure.
You know, like at some point you can't be 100% sure that it's not going to get recovered unless it's just destroyed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Melted or vaporized or some shit.
Just thrown straight into the sun.
Right. It's my favorite method.
I saw you doing that yesterday.
Oh, did you? You saw that? Oh, man. I try not to show off, but...
You could play for the Chicago Cubs. Rookie of the year style. You know what I'm saying? Funky butt loving.
Did he say funky butt loving?
Oh, God. I hope we don't ever have to watch that movie.
Oh, don't worry. I will make you watch that for a while.
For a while.
Which brings up my next point, the suspension of disbelief in the whole story. Why doesn't he have a gun? Why does he have to have the laser floss?
Yeah, it's a good one.
I am perfectly okay with the weaponry exhibited in this film. I'm down with it.
I'm 50-50 on it. It was kind of cool, but dude, just shoot him. Like,
yeah, I gotta agree with you. Like, I don't have a problem with it, and I liked it, but also, like, why not just shoot it?
Alan's a realist.
Dude, that's my dream movie. I want to make like a real Terminator movie. Where just fucking
can make a short film. Very short film.
It's 2.5 minutes because he kills him.
Yeah, I made a 114-second short film and got sued by James Cameron.
No, because you can still make a long film like that, not getting off topic, because the characters can still escape, like, in a believable way. I mean,
No Country for Old Men?
Exactly. That's a perfect example. That's a great movie.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's like a great movie.
Anyway, back to speaking of greatness, Carl, right? So Carl is fighting Jane, and then Keanu Reeves shows up, tries to Matrix karate his ass, fails. Yep. Carl is too fucking good. He's epic. He's Dolph Lundgren. He's Ivan Drago.
He pales one of Jane's hands to the wall. He's already getting ready to crucify another person.
He's ready to do the finishing move, like WWE style.
He crucifies one hand. She's up there. She's in danger.
But
this guy straight up crucifies people.
They basically find a way to take him down with like a sonar ray from the dolphin. Like they hook up a computer thing and then they aim a satellite thing. I don't know what happens exactly. It's kind of hard to follow. But basically, they get the dolphin to like shoot a sonar ray at Dolph Lundgren, which weakens him.
Yeah.
And then they proceed to electrocute him with some wires.
Yeah. Johnny grabs like a big bundle and electrocutes him.
And his the effect of him getting electrocuted and burned is fucking great. Like, it's really good. Pretty much any effect in this movie that isn't CG is top notch.
He doesn't just get like electrocuted. They show him like straight up being like burned to death or charred. Like his skeleton, like he's black. Like they fucking charred his ass.
Oh yeah, he's basically like Max Schreck in Batman Returns. Right, Steve?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, that scene's awesome. Where fucking Catwoman goes to kiss him and then blasts his ass.
So of all his power, all his Jesusness, Dolph Lundgren, in a strange turn of events, gets taken down by a dolphin. Dolph Lundgren, dolphin.
Dolph V.
It was the only reasonable way. It was the only thing that made sense in the end.
I guess you could say D&D.
One could, my man. So this wraps up with Johnny linking up to the dolphin after the bad guys are taken out. He has to go through some really shitty CG cyberspace. It wasn't really bad, the CG. And I mean, it was, but it's a lot worse in this scene because there's like a CG version of him in cyberspace, and it's a lot of like him opening doors and stuff. What does he do here exactly, Steve?
Yeah, it's not kind of random shit. I don't even know what to call it.
Just like polygons fucking
Just
each other.
kind of like falling
Yeah.
through like a space. And
It looks like
there's like data trails.
God, what song was that for? It was a Peter Gabriel video they did like that in like 1992. It was just all weird polygon people like doing weird shit.
This
Great
part,
song.
this part to me was pretty jarring. And honestly, I think I asked you when it was going. I asked you again. Is it supposed to be that bad, or is that just like really like all they could do? Because it looks pretty fucking bad.
A little of both. I mean, that kind of aesthetic style was really popular in the early and mid 90s, and a lot of CG was being designed that way. But also, you know, their ability to pull it off was limited.
His character was like stretched and thin and like
Yeah.
not detailed. It was very clunky, and
Right.
I kind of got the vibe, like you said, like that was the style.
I feel like if any Johnny Mnemonic super
like,
fans,
ugh.
other than Steve, listen to this and write in, they're going to probably be offended by this part. But I mean, Alan's right. It doesn't look good.
No, I mean, like, I think the aesthetic would come off better if they were doing it with 2019 technology.
Well, I guess you're right.
But I
that's a fair point.
But at
Yeah.
the same time, I would say also, yeah, the two confound each other. Like that aesthetic doesn't work well from the perspective of a world in which they couldn't do it better.
I want them to have 2019 technology in 1995, Steve. It's
Right.
just unacceptable to me.
It would be kind of interesting to
rewind
see
time.
them, right? Like, it would be kind of interesting to see them recut the movie, leave everything exactly as it is, except the portions that were in CG, and just redo them using modern CG. But I don't want to open the door to a fucking Star Wars special edition here.
That brings up a lot of interesting things. I actually have, I don't think doing that is an entirely bad thing. I've seen it done
Yeah.
and it be bad, but I don't think redoing like the art and things is necessarily a bad idea for everything.
No, I would. It would be really interesting. I'd be happy to see it. I'm happier when they they keep the original available just for what's the word I'm looking for here? Posterity. Like, so
Yes.
people can still see the original version of it.
I agree 100%. I was just gonna say the same thing. I don't mind if they redid it, but like Steve said, they should keep the original one so you can just know how it was.
Yeah, you
Like,
should
you
be able
can't
to watch it the way
overwrite
it was originally shown.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if every time they remade a movie, they eliminated all copies of the previous, like the new Ghostbusters?
Oh, you mean like George Lucas?
No, I'm not saying editing, but like remake. So
Right.
like the new Ghostbusters comes out, the old Ghostbusters is gone.
Oh,
It's
shit.
no longer available.
It's just the guy on a computer and he's dragging and it's like, are you sure you want to overwrite? And
Do you
he's
want
like,
to delete
yes.
Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Like from the entire world?
the computer.
Like every copy of it is just immediately non-functional.
He just clicks overwrite instead of fucking.
If everything's all digital, then maybe it could be possible.
Dude, Alan and I were in Fry's a couple days ago, and he was saying, who's still buying discs? Why you just got all streaming? And I was like, I fucking still buy discs, and that's one of the reasons why they can't take my disc away from me. They can't delete it midnight when I'm in bed, and all of a sudden it's not there again the next day. Like,
IRS challenge accepted. Take your shit.
no.
Pay your taxes. You'll be fine. All right. So this movie ends right about here.
I'm supposed to pay my taxes?
Oh my god.
What have I done?
Right. Oh my god.
So we get like our hackers ending. Like the data gets out of Johnny's head finally, and it's disseminated among the world, which is the cure for this disease that's like affecting, I think they said almost half the population. So this is a epidemic. But yeah, they get the data out there, they transmit it, and
J-Bone goes on TV and he's like, yo, what's up, guys? Like, coming to you from Low Tech or whatever his
it's your
speech
boy
is.
Ice-T.
Yeah. I got the cure right here. We're uploading it Low Tech style.
Check me out on Law and Order.
Follow me on Twitter. Yeah, it's the same shit as Hackers. He does the whole broadcast and
Make sure to outvote this
They win.
video and let me know what you want me to expose next.
comment down below.
What major diseases should I cure next? Comment below.
I'm curing it. I cured this shit.
Your man J-Bone 69.
You know what I mean.
That's
J-Bone
great.
420.
All right, so Johnny also gets his childhood memories back, so he is good to go. And they had kind of a romance leading up with him and Jane, so I'm going to assume they live happily ever after, despite whatever knowledge Steve might have on the topic.
I mean, as far as the movie telling of this story is concerned, yeah, we can go with that. Like in the books, again, later on, like they immediately separate at the end of the story. And in the books, at some point later in a different novel, Molly reminisces about where Johnny ended up. And I'd have to reread it, but I'm pretty sure the implication is that he eventually died. So
I was kind of conflicted at the end because, like you said, it pretty much ends here. And it was pretty abrupt. But I don't know if more would have made the ending better.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what they would put. Like, it just kind of ended, and I was confused on the ending. I wasn't confused, but I wasn't sure.
No, I get you.
If it should have ended like that.
It's one of those examples where I don't feel like they cut it way short, but I could have seen it being maybe 10 minutes longer just to flesh it out a little bit.
And that wouldn't have been too long, or like, that's what I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah. I don't think it was missing. Like, there's some films they end, and I'm like, there was an hour of that movie missing, and I don't feel that way about this one. But they might have stretched it out by another 10 minutes, make it a little easier to get.
Because it did end kind of abruptly. Like, they won.
Right.
I mean, any scene that comes to an end is kind of abrupt in this film.
It's true.
There is a little bit of a strange like editing style to it, where it's like something just happens next immediately. You don't really have time to understand what it is, I guess, if it's your first time watching it.
The guy that directed this film had also directed, I think, a couple of music videos.
Yeah, Robert Longo.
Yeah, but was primarily an artist. And I think this is the only major movie he ever did.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really strange. They found this artist and gave him this film for, not that he's that bad, but like for no apparent reason. This guy, no real directing experience. And then he's like, I'm not going to do any other movies after this.
I mean, maybe it's because this movie was critically panned.
Yeah,
there is such a thing as director's jail.
When William Gibson, the writer of the story,
do not pass go,
right, had written at least one of the original scripts and went into this assuming that was what they were going to film. And apparently it just got fucked with endlessly. I mean, not just the script itself, but like the editing of the movie. And by the time they were done, even he was like, this is not what I wanted to make.
I see.
Do we know how Keanu Reeves got picked for this?
All right, so here's what's funny.
Wanted for it?
They were originally considering, honest to God, Christopher Lambert for this part, and eventually decided not to go with him. They offered it to Val Kilmer, who initially accepted it. And there was a conflict because he decided to also take Batman. And he ended up going to do Batman instead.
It came out the same year.
Yeah. So he ended up going to do Batman. And then somehow after that, they landed on Keanu. But because Cyberpunk as a genre wasn't that widely known at this point, and because Sony, who owned Columbia, was trying to turn this into a huge thing, they were like, we want to be in the Cyberpunk business. This is going to be the future of sci-fi filmmaking. They were trying to really promote it, and the fact that Keanu was in it was a huge, huge marketing point for them. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is the face of Cyberpunk.
Right?
I'll say that.
Yeah.
If you Google search Cyberpunk, you will see Keanu Reeves.
It's a meme where he has the sunglasses.
Probably. No one proved me wrong on that. I don't know. I've never tested it.
And he says, we've got a city to burn.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, it was critically panned. I checked Rotten Tomatoes. It has a 13% critic score, which is just cruel and unusual. I hate seeing shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's certainly not a very good movie, but it's not like the worst thing out there.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Before we go into whether or not this is a good movie, there's an important question that's on everyone's minds. This question has been sponsored by Josh from Spoilers. And the question is, who is the Jesus character in... What is this movie? Johnny Mnemonic.
Carl.
What do we watch? Yeah, if you tell me anything other than Carl, I'm gonna have a fit.
Yeah. Carl literally says Jesus.
You guys have
like
a strange conception of Jesus.
Well, let me say, at the very end, there is a fake out we didn't talk about where they show Carl's charred body and it slowly starts to rise like Jesus. It's like, oh wait, Carl's coming back to life somehow. I was actually shocked at that point. I was like, oh my God. Are you serious? Like, are they really gonna do this? I was legitimately concerned. If that actually happened, that would have lowered my rating of this movie a lot, because I was like, no, Carl's dead. He can't come back to life. This is not some zombie bullshit. So the body starts moving, and then you find out like 2 seconds later, oh, they're just lifting the body up with a crane to get rid of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that. You know what? I actually really love that scene. I like the double fake out, because you got to have the fake out when the guy dies, but he's not really dead. But it's a double fake out. He is really dead.
Yeah.
The fake out's on you. Thought it was great.
So concerned that he was going to come back to life.
So you guys think that Carl's a Jesus character, really? You guys aren't going to put any more thought into this?
No, tell us why we're wrong for some ridiculous reason.
Okay. Well, the Jesus character showed up a few times, and it is associated to Carl. The Jesus character was Jesus on the crucifix dagger.
It's not even an animate character. This is like... You're not even choosing people at this point.
How
I thought you were going to say the dolphin.
God, I can't handle this game.
Whatever happened to the dolphin, dude? They don't explain that.
Echo?
Yeah.
Jones, he just gets to stay there with the low techs.
Okay.
Yeah. He gets to hang out in a 5 by 7 foot water tank all day, where he gets to swim freely.
Dolphins love that.
It's really their favorite thing.
Right.
All right. So we're going to do our ratings. Since I don't normally go first on this, I'm going to nominate myself to go first. Set the stage. My rating scale that I'm going to go with, 10-point rating system, has been one of my favorites. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 Dolph Lundgrens.
Nice.
I had never seen this movie until today. And I did mention before I have a soft spot for sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
I usually feel like I would only like this kind of movie if I had some nostalgia for it, which I don't. But it's just, it's kind of good. Like, yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But the setting that they have, the world that they build,
yeah,
the rules that they establish, I mean, sure, there's some holes, but I mean, I think for the most part, it's pretty well grounded. And I just like this place. This like musty, like sci-fi, like hazy, like, there's a lot of like underground gangs and Yakuza shit going on, and people got bow and arrows and fucking futuristic guns in the far future year of whatever 2012 or whatever it's supposed
2021,
to be.
January 2021.
Okay, so it is in the future.
That's 6 months from the future, yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of like it. Like it's good. I thought I would seriously come out of this being like I hated this fucking movie, but I liked it.
This movie takes place after the Area 51 raid. Coincidence?
I think not.
Yeah, I think not.
Holy shit. It is relevant to this movie. Alan, on any rating scale you want, what would you give Johnny Mnemonic?
I'm going to be right in the middle, and I'm going to say 5 out of 10 dolphins. My review is honestly going to be very similar to what you just said. I put it right in the middle because I too have a soft spot for sci-fi, cyberpunk. I like the idea. I really like the idea that he can carry the data in him, like he's the courier and the data gets implanted in his brain. But then there's a lot of questions and there are some kind of goofy scenes. The beginning text crawl, just seeing it for the first time, it's really hard to keep up. The way they explained everything makes sense, but it was kind of fragmented and hard to follow. Dolph Lundgren, Carl was great, so maybe I'll give it 6.
It's amazing. And you're right. There are parts, I didn't mention this, that are kind of hard to follow.
That's
so
the thing.
I'll probably have to rewatch it again to fully get it. But even with what I just saw.
And then you get characters like Carl, which is great. But the dolphin, that was a shock. I was like, a dolphin? But the idea, and it wasn't boring. It didn't feel like a drag. Like, it was entertaining. It was cool. And I just feel like the idea is the best part of this. If they could just redo it or just kind of make it with that same idea.
What do you think, Steve? What's your rating?
I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 highly augmented dolphins.
Just got to one-up Alan.
Right? Well, okay, look, I will say, I think my rating is, I really do mean by a small degree more favorable than I might otherwise be with it because I have some nostalgia value attached to this film.
I get that.
And I enjoyed seeing it at 12, and I liked it in theaters, and it felt very new at the time. But like even aside from that, my biggest complaint about this film really is that it's not more like the source material. I think to Alan's point, if it were, and if they remade a version of it that really was pure to the source material, what you'd end up with is a better product. But there's enough there, as you said. It's really not bad. It's entertaining. It moves along. It keeps a pace. It's interesting, and I'm a huge fan of that kind of greasy, grimy, noir-inspired, fog-filled cyberpunk universe. Like, I love those kinds of stories. It's what drew me to a lot of William Gibson's work in the first place. And they managed to carry over enough from the work it was based on to not completely fuck it. So yeah, not bad.
Right on. Well, there you have our ratings. Before I move on to the next thing, I will be reading an email that we got from someone.
Steve is highly offensive. I'm going to be suing for slander.
So this is from Gabs. All right. So hopefully I don't fuck this up. Hey guys, I'm a fan of the podcast and I wanted to suggest a movie to review. When I was around 19, I went on a date and this guy thought it would be a good idea to watch Flintstones the movie. Oh no, wait, it's the Flintstones. Saw fucking Ree. This shit was fucking whack. Like if it's playing at the dentist's office and I can't change the channel, fuck it, I won't complain. But fuck this movie. Steve is fucking dope. Alan is lame. Just kidding, he's tight. And Corey, yeah, keep up the great work, you're awesome. Back to the movie. I would have preferred to watch the cartoons than that shit. I know Viva Rock Vegas exists, and that's a even worse piece of shit than this movie. That's true. That one I won't watch. Viva Rock Vegas. All right, boys. Come up with a name for your fans. Don't call us groupies, though. Keep it up, y'all. Deuces. Your girl Gabs.
This is clearly a massively intelligent person. I mean, we should just get that out there right now. Like,
Gabs is cool.
Yeah, I mean, Gabs is obviously awesome. I want to hang out with Gabs. Like,
this movie is fucking whack.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's a good point brought up here. Come up with a name for your fans. I had a name. It was Mom. Because she was the only one that listened.
Like the one. My mother doesn't even, like, no, even my mother doesn't listen to this.
But she's right. Now that we have a bigger fan base of my mom and Gabby.
Oh, man.
We'll have to think of something separately. We'll bring something to the table next time.
You can't really... I was thinking maybe make it easier to say by, like, abbreviating the name of the podcast into initials, but BDM sounds like a sex thing.
Well, you know, I'm just really glad that we didn't name it Big Dumb Stupid Movie.
Oh, we were so close.
We were this close to great.
We're on the verge of greatness.
That's right. I mean, honestly, BDM pays sounds like something that A, you had to pay for, and B, hurts. Like,
on that same note, random note, there is a group in the Philippines called MILF, which you may or never heard. They're literally called MILF. It's like the Militant Islamic Liberation Front or something. They're a real group. And their initials
I like the other MILFs
MILF.
better.
Just all hot women. Just like...
No, it's just like Filipino Muslim terrorists.
Oh, shit.
That's not fun at all.
No, I don't like that,
Can
Alan.
we talk about the good MILF?
MILF is a thing. So they did it first.
God.
All right, well, I think it's time for the hat. So if whoever...
I honestly have no idea who's drawing.
All right, Steve, you draw.
I thought it was Steve's turn.
Yeah,
All right.
it's Steve's turn.
And then I'm next, I think.
Yeah, it's got to be.
haven't done
Because
one
I
in a
never
while.
draw out of that.
Okay.
Fucking A.
You don't want like the blood on your
I
hands.
don't want the responsibility.
Yeah, for the shit we watch.
God, I've got such bad luck with this guy. Let's see. Well, actually, some of them have been okay for me.
Silver Surfer.
I hope it says the new Sonic movie.
They got hackers at once. Oh, boy. Okay, mixed feelings. It's going to be another Arnie. Last Action Hero.
Oh, Alan's pick.
Right?
Oh, no.
So that's ours, boys.
Alan, this is on you.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Well, guys, thank you very much for listening. As you heard, next time we'll be watching Last Action Hero. Great film, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
If you want to write in, you can email us at bigdumbmovie@gmail.com. You can send us a movie suggestion like Gabs did, and I'll put it in the hat. That's what I did with Gabs, so you guys should be warned. Flintstones is now in the hat.
God help us.
Also, you can find us on Instagram, Big Dumb Movie Podcast. We have a Facebook page. And send us a message if you want to chat with us. And thank you for listening.
See ya.
Aloha.